Okay, I'm sorry, yeah, 2.8, the distance and midpoint formula, and then we're going to look at circles. Um, so the distance formula is derived from Pythagorean theorem. So you look, you got these points right here, x1, y1, x2, y2. So if you look at this point right here would be at x2, y2. Would I'm sorry, y1, y1 right there. So if you look at that, if you look the difference right here, we call the side A. That's the differences of the x's. So that's what this is right here. Um, that's what you have right here. And then right here, this could be your b value. So the differences of the y's, it's your b value. And so anyways, if you're familiar with Pythagorean theorem, it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And then what they do is they go ahead and already take the square root of both sides for you. And so anyways, if you ever kind of get in a jam, just if you can remember the Pythagorean theorem, a lot of students can recall that from previous courses. Um, you can derive it real quick. All right. So let's go ahead and look at this example right here. So we could go ahead and we'll let this one be our x1, y1, x2, y2. It doesn't matter which one is which. It doesn't make a difference. And it actually doesn't make a difference what order you subtract them either. So let's see, -1 minus 3. If I would have gone in the opposite order, it actually doesn't matter because you're going to square it. So whether you get the same numbers, just might be positive, might be negative, but once you square it, it doesn't make a difference. So then we'll do the same thing with the y's. So let's see, 4 minus, just be careful, minus and -2. So we'll have to take care of those double negatives there. So our distance is equal to the square root. So right here, we're going to get -4 squared plus, now you got double negatives, so that should turn into a 6 squared, okay? So then we go ahead and square both of these. So then we're going to get a 16 plus 36. So now we're going to get the distance is equal to the square root of 52. And you'll notice that as far as the homework and stuff, they're going to tell you to go 2 decimal places. And that's fine. You can go ahead and use your calculator. That's fine. But I kind of prefer to simplify this if possible. And it is possible. So square root of 52 is the same thing as the square root of 4 times the square root of 13. And so you can go ahead and square root 4. So this would become 2 square roots of 13. So if you want to do 2 decimal places, that's fine. I'll take it either way since that's the way the book presents it. Um, but if you're going to take trigonometry, if you're going to go further, you don't typically do decimals on radicals because we want to have exact answers. But anyways, okay. So if we scroll down here, I originally had I think 4 examples here when I posted your notes, but really that kind of overdoes it. You really don't, we really don't need to do that many examples. I think maybe one more is fine. So let's try just one more. So if we look at this one, we'll call this x1, y1, x2, y2. So the distance formula is the differences of the x's. So 2 minus 14 squared plus the differences of the y's, 3 minus 8 squared. Okay, so now our distance is going to be equal to, let's see what that gives us, -12 squared plus -5 squared. So the distance is equal to the square root of 144 plus 25. So then we're going to get the distance is equal to the square root of 169, which actually turns out to just be 13. So that one worked out kind of nice. Now I believe example 3 is probably going to look more like the one we did up above. But like I said, I think once you do like 2 or 3 of these, I mean, you're fine. You should be good. Um, like I said, that formula, if you ever forget, you can just think about the Pythagorean theorem. All right. So now we'll consider midpoint. So midpoint is actually even easier. If you want to find the middle of something, don't you average it, right? If you want to find the middle, you average. And so that's exactly what you do. You average the x values and you average the y values. And so you just add the x's, divide by 2, add the y's, divide by 2. Once again, we probably don't need to do a million of these. So on my example right here, you can see your x's. So just add the x's together. So -8 plus 1 divided by 2. Add the y's together, -4 plus a -6, and divide by 2. So that's going to give us -7 over 2 and -10 over 2. And then you do want to simplify if you can. I wouldn't go to decimals if I were you. I mean, if you want to, I won't hold it against you. But I would just leave the first one as -7 over 2. But if you wanted to put -3.5, whatever, that's fine. And then -5 right there. So there we go. Not too bad. Pretty simple. So if you want to find the midpoint, point in the middle, you just basically average the x's and you average the y values. And if you were to look on this graph, you can see that, yeah, that lines up with -3.5 and -5 right there for your y value. So you can see that that is accurate. All right, so we'll probably just try another one or two of these. So let's see, I guess we can try 19. So you add the x's together, so 6 plus 2 divided by 2, 8 plus 4 divided by 2. So then let's see, now we're going to have 8 divided by 2, 12 divided by 2. So that should end up giving us 4, 6. Pretty basic. I'm not even going to bother with 21. You can try it on your own if you want, but I think once you do a couple of these, you should be in good shape. I do have one with fractions, and we'll go ahead and do that one. And really, it's not. It looks like it would suck, but it's really going to work out real nicely. Your answers are actually going to all be whole numbers. You're not going to end up with any fractions or decimals. So let's see. Our midpoint. Let's see. So you're going to add the x's together. And we're going to add the y's together. Okay. And so when you add and subtract fractions or anything like that, you got to have common denominators. And we already have that. That's what makes this one so easy. It's really not bad. So let's see. This gives us -12 over 2 all over 2. And this is going to give us -8 over 2 all over 2. Okay, and so we'll go ahead and simplify those fractions there. And so let's see, that'll give us a -6 over 2, -4 over 2, and then that simplifies to -3, -2. So as I told you from the beginning, that one really wasn't going to be that hard. I mean, obviously when you first look at it, you're like, geez, that doesn't look like fun, but it really doesn't turn out to be too bad. All right. So now we're going to look at circles. And so just so you know, the reason we kind of looked at midpoint in distance formula is, and we probably won't do this in here. We could, but in pre-cal, you might kind of examine this a little bit. But, you know, if you were to find the diameter of a circle, the midpoint would be the center, right? And then if you want to know the radius, you have to know how to find distance. And so that's kind of why we kind of review those topics. And we could look at some of that in here. Maybe we will at some point. But anyways, right now we're just going to focus on the circle in general. So basically the definition of a circle is you've got a point and then all the points around it are equal distance. So all these points around it going around are equal distance from the center. And so this is the formula for a circle. This is the standard equation. So x minus h plus y minus k, both of those being squared, sorry, both, and then equals the radius squared. And so the h and k is going to be your center. And so that minus is part of the formula. So basically, it's going to be the opposite of whatever is there, okay? And then the radius, you're going to have to square root that to actually figure out the radius term. And so if you look at our example over here, so if you take the square root of 4, it's 2. And so you can see that, yeah, the radius is 2 on that example. All right, so let's go ahead and try a couple of these. So basically your h and your k are 0, so that's kind of silly. So you're going to have x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared is equal to 7 squared. And so really you don't need those minus zeros. So we're going to have x squared plus y squared is equal to 49, and that's what we're looking at on that one. So that one was pretty basic. All right, so on this next one, here's our h and k. So we're going to have x minus 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 5 squared. Okay, nothing you really need to simplify except maybe the 5 squared. And so let's see, we're going to have x minus 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 25. There you go. So not too bad. I mean, yeah, it's a formula that you'll have to remember, but actually putting it to use is not too bad. And in a minute, just keep in mind, in a minute, what we're going to do is go backwards. I'll give you the equation, and we'll actually extract the information to graph it. All right. So here's our h and k. So this time you're going to have x minus a negative 1 squared plus y minus 4 squared, and then that equals 2 squared. So this time you do need to kind of clean it up a little bit right there. So that's going to give us x plus 1 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 4. And there we go. All right. Okay, so on this next one, let's see, this is our h and k. So we're going to have x minus negative 3 squared plus, then we get a y minus negative 1 squared, and then we have equals the square root of 3 squared. So once again, clean it up a little bit. There we go. Clean up those double negatives. And then when you square a square root, that nullifies the square root. So we're going to get x plus 3 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 3. And there's our equation. Okay, so as promised, the next slide, we're going to go in the reverse. What we're going to do is we give you the equation, and we want to extract the center and radius, graph it, and then domain and range. So this first one's pretty simple because the center is going to be at 0, 0. Okay. Then the radius, if you square root 16, it's going to give us 4. So we're going to start at 0, 0, and then basically you just want to go in every direction 4 units to help guide you to graph the circle. So we go up 4, to the right 4, to the bottom 4, to the left 4, and then just draw a circle, and there we go. Not too bad. Not too bad. All right, so domain and range, domain left to right. So this is a nice review from our last test. So from -4 to +4, and same thing for the range actually, from -4 to +4. Okay. All right, so now we get to do 3 more of these. Okay. So on this first one, our center is going to be at 2, 3. Square root of 16 again, so our radius is 4. So we'll go ahead and graph all these, and then in a minute we'll list the domain and range. That part's underneath the graphs here. All right, so let's see. This center is at 2, up 3, so we're going to be right here. And then when I go 4 in each direction, I go a little off the graph. That's okay. That's going to happen sometimes with this. I'm just trying to use fairly small graphs so I can put them all on the same page. So anyway, so here we go. So we're going to go up, around, and there we go. And we'll list the domain and range in a second, which is, you know, that's pretty easy part of it. All right, so if I were you, I'd maybe pause for a minute and try the next two on your own, but I'm just going to go ahead and move forward. So our center on this one is actually going to be -3, 2, okay? Radius is 2, square root of 4 is 2. All right, and so let's see, our center is at -3, up 2. Then we go 2 up, 2 to the right, 2 down, 2 to the left, and there we go. Not too bad. The smaller they are, the easier they are to draw. Okay. So, oops. This one here, this is kind of interesting. So our center is at -1, and then the y doesn't, you're not adding and subtracting anything, so it's understood 0. Our radius is 5. So we're going to be at -1, 0. And we'll go 5 up, 5 to the right, 5 down, and then 5 to the left over here. All right, and so a little harder to draw the bigger ones, but it'll be fine. Not too bad, actually, so that's not too bad. All right, and so then the last part that we couldn't see yet was the domain and range part. Okay, so the domain on the first one, you can just, oops, -2. You just look from left to right. So from -2 to 6, pretty basic. Domain, or I'm sorry, range, bottom to top. So let's see, that's going to be from -1 all the way up to 7. Okay. Then on this next one, let's see, we're going to go from -5 to -1. And then we're going to go from 0 to 4. Pretty good. And then this one, let's see, we're going to go from -6 to 4. And from -5 all the way up to +5 for our range. So not too bad. It wasn't really all that bad. Okay, the last part isn't super difficult, but you're going to have to remember completing the square. And so actually, let's move this stuff back up. And so the completing the square aspect of this is actually not super difficult. So just bear with me for a moment and you'll be like, okay, I remember doing this. The only difference is you're basically going to do completing the square twice. So first things first, I'm gonna use the commutative property and move a couple things around. I'm gonna get these guys shuffled around next to each other, and I'm gonna move this guy out of the way. He's just gonna move him to the other side. So now I have my x squared plus 8x, and I've got my oops, let me see. And then what I want to do is put a plus blank right here, and I'm going to color code this actually. And so then we'll have our plus y squared minus 2y plus blank. And this is all equal to that 8 that I moved out of the way. So hopefully you remember from when we did this, we did the plus blank type stuff, okay? And so what we want to do is you remember correctly, in order to do completing the square, what we want to do here is we want to have x squared plus bx, and then we want this value to be half of whatever the b value is, quantity squared. So you want to take half of the number right here, which is 4, and square it, which is 16. And then don't forget to add 16 right there, because if you're going to add 16 to one side, got to add it to the other side. So then we'll do the same thing here. Half of -2 is -1. -1 to the second power is +1. So we're going to add a 1 there. So we've got to add it everywhere. And so what happens here is this factors into, and I'll go ahead and write it down so you can see it. It factors into x plus 4, x plus 4. And this factors into y minus 1, y minus 1. Okay, and that was kind of the whole idea here. We wanted that to happen. Okay, so once we simplify this by writing this as x plus 4 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals, let's see, that all adds up to 25. Now it should look familiar. Our circle is in standard form now. This is the standard form that we've been dealing with the last couple pages. So our center is going to be at -4, 1, and our radius is going to be 5. And shouldn't have too many difficulties graphing this. I think it's going to be a little off my graph, but not a big deal. Not a big deal. So let's see, we'll go up 5, to the right 5, down 5, and then I'm going to go way off the page, but that's okay. All right, so then we graph it. Not a big deal. Here we go. And then we don't care about domain and range this time. We weren't asked to find that. So hopefully you remember completing the square, and if you don't, just got to get a little practice in. These aren't going to be very challenging. You're not going to have to deal with any fractions or anything like that. We keep it pretty civil here. Okay. So on this next one, we're going to do the same thing. So what we'll do here, let's see, we've got x squared minus 2x, and we'll put a plus blank, and plus y squared. And then we're going to go ahead and add that 15 to both sides, get that out of the way. Get that 15 out of the way. So then half of -2 is 1, so I'll put a 1 there. So then I have to add 1 over here. Now you notice I don't have to do completing the square with the y, because it's just going to end up being 0, the k value. But this goes ahead and factors into x minus 1, or x minus 1 quantity squared. We have our y squared right here, and then equals 16. So we'll go ahead and erase that. All right, so our center is going to be at +1, 0, and our radius is going to be at 4. So let's see, we're going to be at 1, 0. And we'll go 4, 4, 4, and 4 in each direction, and then we'll go ahead and graph this. So I think I realized I accidentally skipped the first one somehow. But I think that's okay. I think if you've seen 2 of them, you're going to be fine. You'll be able to figure it out. It's not that big of a deal. And if you have any concerns, feel free to email me. All right.